I think what makes us special as human beings is exactly what you're teaching people.
A lot of the time when you are visualizing and you're rewiring, you are retraining your filter system in the brain. It was in hospital where I was using my imagination to see myself walking again. But because I hadn't done it in so long, it was really unfamiliar to my brain that I could do it. And so I had to teach it. Walking is a possibility because really with something like visualization, because it's so multisensory, the emotions play a huge role. It's one thing to be like, okay, this is what I want. We can't always control what life is going to bring to us. But the one thing you can always have control over is every single moment of your life, your mind is dominating everything. Whatever you're thinking or repeatedly imagining, it's about your attitude. I think the most dangerous attribute of a high performer, which will really destroy their career and their performance,
obviously having been an athlete, and I guess you could say the top 1%, but having used visualization when I was a kid without even knowing, and then looping that all in with energy, frequency, a little bit of spirituality, all that stuff. I'm so curious of like the merge point between all of them. Off the bat, I find it amazing that you were able to heal yourself from a chronic disease. And that's kind of what led you into this space, right?
There's not a day that goes by that I'm not so grateful for all of that. I mean, I wouldn't do it again in terms of getting an illness, but I'll never not be fascinated at how powerful our brains and bodies are. And I also played a lot of sport when I was younger. For me, it was racket sports and did it at a very competitive level. And then when I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, the disease in itself is not like life-threatening, but the impact the disease has on your life definitely is, because it's an inflammatory bowel disease. And so everything from eating, drinking water to going to the toilet is like impossible. It's torture. And when you are enduring that level of like pain and inhumane things, it's so debilitating. And yeah, it was in hospital where I first, I guess kind of like you, didn't really realize what I was doing, but I was using my imagination. And at this point it was just to learn, or like to see myself walking again. That was it. Nothing crazy. But because I hadn't done it in so long, it was really unfamiliar to my brain that I could do it. And so I had to teach it that, hey, no, like walking is a possibility and that you are able to maybe have a future where you're healthy, etc. And then as time went on, I really applied it to different things. And one of my like most favorite ones was I remember drawing my colon like really, really healthy. So it was like pink and I literally like painted it. And then every morning I would look at it and I close my eyes and then I would visualize for maybe like half an hour, every tiny cell in my colon. I would see it getting better and turning from like red to pink. And now I obviously understand the power of the brain and the body. But then beyond that, we realize that life is, I guess everything is created here first, everything. And so whatever you're doing here is going to reflect into the world for sure. And now it just feels like a bit of a advantage in life, you know?
Yeah, or ancient. And we are remembering, like, I mean, in Hermeticism, of the 7 Hermetic principles, the first is that the universe is mental.
And I remember there's a great book by Neville Goddard, and it's called Infinite Potential. And the language he uses feels so simple, but it's just when you really realize and you practice it yourself, you do understand that, yeah, whatever you are creating here will come into fruition somehow. We've got to take that seriously.
I always feel like there's 2 kinds of people. There's like someone that thinks in the future and someone that thinks in the past. I don't know, like category, like just in general. And like the future thinkers get attached to outcomes, but you're like visualizing, you're imagining. And then a lot of times people that think in the past tend to have more anxiety, I feel like, and are stuck in an old pattern or story so much more. And it's hard for them to imagine the future. Have you found, I don't know if that like trips any triggers of any of the research that you've done and the way that people think, but have you ever come across any kind of pattern like that in people?
Yeah, I think like definitely in the high performance space, you see that if someone is too much in the future, too much in the past, then if you're not in the present moment, it's very difficult to perform your best. But I think even just taking a step back, and a lot of people, yes, are imagining the future, but they're also imagining worst case scenarios and things like that, which is then quite damaging for them as well. What I think a really nice balance is being able to have a direction for your goals and for your life and for your character and your future, but not being super attached to it. And that's really, really tough, like really hard, because especially we live in such like a goal orientated and outcome driven world that you hear about, well, no, you've got to be obsessed with your goals. You can't let that vision go. But I think the point is yes, have the vision, but then let that give you power for the present rather than just living there where you create an expectation between now where your life is and what it could be, which makes you obviously feel never content. And so the best balance, which I've really seen from working with people, is being inspired and yes, committed to that vision and having it as clarity, but realizing that that should basically give you the foundation for how you should act in the present and think in the present. And that's really where you see the magic happen.
Let's talk about the practice of that, because this is where there's so much stickiness and like, oh, if I want to get what I want, I have to know and I have to think about it and I have to go towards it and work really hard. So what does like a practical practice look like to be able to go, I know what I want and now I detach? What's that look like in real life?
Yes. So you raise a good point that like there's no point doing things like visualization if you actually have no idea. However, I would say there's a technique called explorative visualization, which can help you explore, hey, like this might feel good, or living on a beach somewhere might feel good. That's all fine. But when it comes to that goal driven one, it's one thing to be like, okay, this is what I want. But the bigger focus, I would say, is who do I want to be? Because we can't always control what life is going to bring to us. And, you know, life happens. It could be something external, something out of our control. But the one thing you can always have control over is who you're going to be and how you're going to show up as. So I always say to people, even if you don't know what the thing is or what the job is, what the industry is or what the goal is, come back to, yeah, but what's the type of person I want to be? Who do I want to be? That's a really good starting point. The other thing is, and I always love the story of Sarah Blakely, how she spoke about, she had that vision of, like, you know, where Spanx could be or what it could be. And even when moments got really, really tough, she'd always come back to that vision of like, yeah, but I see it in these stores. Like she'd go into the store and be like, I see it here. I see it on the shelves. I see people buying it. And I do not deny that that has a big role to play in terms of keeping us on the course. So in a practical way, what I would do is, especially at the beginning of the week, or maybe like a Sunday night, I would just take a moment to be like, okay, what is it that I want in life? And again, could be something outcome or it could be character. And then spend about 5 minutes closing your eyes and actually imagining yourself there, achieving it, living it out, enjoying it, bringing the emotions that come with it as well. Your mind will naturally maybe say like, oh, but that feels a bit too far away, or what if I can't do it? That's okay. We don't need to panic. Simply come back to where you want to be, what you want to do. And as long as it gives you that little bit of inspiration and power and motivation, then it will really serve you well. If it makes you really anxious or fearful, then I would suggest making the goal a little bit smaller, a little bit more possible for your brain. And I would do that if you can, definitely minimum once a week. But then if you can maybe do it 3 times, you're going to be able to find that you have a different momentum for your goals. You can add some music to it as well, make it quite cinematic, but really enjoy the process, because you're going to be imagining something. You might as well imagine where you want to be going.
Yeah, no kidding. Instead of the worst possible outcome. What you've done is very similar to with healing your body and visualization, which I want to talk about that versus meditation, is a lot like a Joe Dispenza thing. And I went to a little mini retreat of his years ago. And he was like, all right, we're going to learn this meditation technique and you're going to think about what you want. anything, could be anything. You could want a car, you could want a certain job, you could anything you want. And then you write a little letter down representing that on a piece of paper, and then think of a handful of reasons why. And then on the other side of the letter, write a handful of reasons, a handful of like elevated emotions that you would feel if you achieved that and got that thing that you want. So at the end of the day, we did the meditation. I'm going to go into it. We go to dinner that night, and the girl sitting next to me was like, "Hey, I heard you're interested in Egypt." And I was like, "What? Do you know what I wrote down?" And she was like, "No." She's like, "But this girl over here said you were talking about it earlier." She goes, "There's a trip in February if you want to go." And this was November. And I was like, oh my God. And I looked across the table because it was the whole group. It was very small. It was like 20 of us. And I looked across the table at Joe, and I was like, "Joe, that took 2 hours. 2 hours." But the magic that I feel like I've experienced in that is that 2 parts. One is like, and I'm curious what the explanation why or how this plays into your research, is that one is like, I really let go of it. Like the detach, like I thought about it. Of course, I was like happy to have this be something that came to fruition within the next couple of years, like the right trip to Egypt. So like I wanted it, but I let go of gripping at how that was going to look or feel or any of those things. I just kind of was like, whatever. And then the other thing is that the connection between the body and the mind. Like I've found that when I actually truly put myself there with the emotions, it's always visceral. Like I could laugh or I'll cry or I'll get hot or I'll get excited or I'll smile. Like there's like an actual, like as if I actually am there. So how in the hell did that happen within 2 hours? Like what in your research, tell me about the magic.
It's funny you ask that, because I actually have a constant battle between how I talk about visualization, because I think there is an element of like, we talk about it in a manifestation point of view where you think of something and it just happens. The way I teach it very much comes down to the neuroscience side of stuff.
Yeah.
But when you understand that, I guess, everything in life is energy and it's all playing at different frequencies. And it's also the thing of like, if you maybe hadn't have visualized that, you wouldn't have really cared about the conversation that was going on, because it just wasn't in your direct like filter of your brain. There are things happening in the world all the time. It's up to us to have that filtered brain to be like, wait a second, this is in my mindset that I want it. So then I'm going to take that opportunity. A lot of the time when you are visualizing and you're rewiring, you are retraining your filter system in the brain to be like, hey, now look out for these opportunities, look out for these people, and, act on it as well, rather than just kind of waiting for it to come to you. And I think the other part, the emotional part, is really good, because some people will say to me, "Oh, Maya, I have aphantasia," which is where you can't see anything. Your brain doesn't create imagery. But like if I said to you, think of a beach ball, you'd understand the concept, but you couldn't see it. And this is a spectrum. Some people can see everything so clearly, and some people can see nothing. It's like just pure black. But this is where it gets interesting, because really with something like visualization, because it's so multisensory, the emotions play a huge role. And I think the best way to explain it is, have you ever had an experience where you've maybe experienced a really like intense negative emotion? It could be in an environment or a situation, anything like that. And then the next time you think about it or you go in there, it's like your body just remembers immediately what it felt like. Yeah. So in the same way, what we're doing in the visualizations is we are creating this intense emotional experience, which basically wires the brain more permanently. Because you added emotion to the imagery, your brain like really remembers it. It really remembers it.
Like an etching.
Exactly.
Like I feel like that's
imprinted.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is why when you think about your goals or how you want to perform and you really come into that emotion, that wiring is going to be way more intense. And so then next time you're again in that situation, your brain will be like, hey, this is how I'm meant to feel, which is why that's such an important thing. And it's fun because, in fact, it was only today I was just working with someone and we were talking about how as a high performer, one of the best things you can do is learn how to generate the energy in yourself, like generate that emotion. And a lot of us, we wait till something can give us joy or something can make us happy or grateful. But actually, if you generate the excitement, that power, that, gratitude, then you'll just get more and more of it. And so, yeah, it's a real skill to generate the energy.
So if you generate the energy, does that have an effect on your field? Like, do you get into that too, where with the energy that comes off the heart goes something like 8 feet or something like that? Like, have you done any research, or what does it do to your field when you change the way you're thinking and then feeling?
Yeah, you're definitely emitting way more energy. And we all know that our heart is like the strongest area where that comes into. If you can really get into your heart when you're in those visualizations, it can make a really big difference.
That's where you really feel it. I feel that's where you really feel it. You can think it, but then when you get into the feeling, it's here.
But that also requires practice and training. Like, I know so many, and I know a lot of people who, because maybe they've been very logical all their life or analytical, and then when you tell them, oh, but like, feel it. It's like, yeah, but what does that mean? I don't get it. And that connection between the mind and body is a skill. But then when you do find it, you like feel, I guess, the goosebumps in your body and that tingling. And I guess it's just one of the most human experiences, because you're like, hey, I created this. So yes, you're always emitting some level of energy. And when you do that, and in Joe Dispenza's book, you even see the diagrams of what happens when you are visualizing. So not only hear what's happening, but all through the body. But one thing I would say, and this is to anyone as well who, let's say, isn't fully convinced on that language, I think we have to just zoom out a bit and just understand that every single moment of your life, your mind is dominating everything. Because whatever you're thinking or repeatedly imagining, you are literally bringing it into the world. So I guess just ask yourself, do we not want to create the best worlds and best futures for ourselves? And if that's the case, then why not try? Why not see what it could be like to start actually building your own future rather than letting other people tell you what it should be or how you should be?
That's interesting. Have you noticed anything with top performers with the people around them? And let's say relationships, parents, are there consistent evidence of like the kind of people that have the most effect around you in positive and also negative ways? Like, do you find that people that have bad relationships, intimate relationships, tend to be much worse performers? Or maybe it's like a mom or dad issue. Like, what are some trends that you've seen?
No matter what anyone says, like, the connections and relationships and people you have around you play a huge role, because it's like the culture you have in your own life. I think parents is a really interesting one, because when athletes are very young, it's generally their parents that are the ones who are instigating, them going to practice or financially, but also motivating them a little bit. And you'll notice that actually there's a little bit of resentment, or quite a lot sometimes, towards a parent. Sometimes the parent even becomes the coach. That's when we get into a very complex situation, because now you're not just, it's not just a coach, it's family. What's really important for high performers is you want to be around people that motivate you and inspire you. People that challenge you and they can be very honest with you. Because often when you're an athlete or even like a leader, CEO, it's very common that you think you know everything, but you have to be open to having people around you that can say, hey, look, that actually wasn't right, or you didn't act very, fair here. So have people that can challenge you, but you also need a rock, someone that you can genuinely be honest with of how you're feeling. And that might be a coach, but it can also be a friend, because that road can be lonely. Being a high performer, some people don't understand the sacrifices you're making to your social life, to your family life, things like that. But then I see athletes who really put time and effort into their families, or maybe they've got kids. You notice that they don't care as much about the sport. So a really good example is there's a runner, and she always used to get like maybe 4th, 5th place. And she'd get really frustrated. She was like, oh, for goodness sake, like, why can't I get to the first and the seconds? And then she actually had a kid, and everyone was like, oh, like, you're going to have to obviously retire soon, things like that. And actually, since having her child, she's got to the first and seconds. And I asked her why, and she was like, because honestly, running has become my second priority. It means that when I'm on the track, I just run more freely, more boldly. I'm not too worried about, I have to win, because I just know I'm going to have to go home and feed my kid. And I love that. I love the mentality that a lot of the time when people have families, they realize there's more to life than the thing you're doing. But what I would say is every 3 months, do a relationship audit. Ask yourself, who in my life is serving me? Who in my life is draining me? And be honest with yourself and include yourself in that audit. And then from there, start making changes. Because if someone really is draining your energy, they just negative vibes, not great for you, you got to cut them out. You got to be bold. You got to be very ruthless. So do a relationship audit. Yeah. Every 3 months.
What are some negative traits that you see actually play into success ultimately?
Definitely people attaching their worth to their results. And I think that's a sticky one, because when you're in sport or even business, you tend to get praise or progress when you win, right? And you get the trophy when you're number one. It's what we see in the world. Again, it's the reality we are constantly looking at. But as soon as there's a loss or things get a bit harder, it doesn't just impact them as an athlete or a business person. It impacts them in their heart, because it's not like, oh no, I got it wrong. It's like, oh no, I'm a really bad person. I'm not very good anymore. And it hits those ideas that we have. And so it's really important that high performers detach their worth from the results they get. You have to have enough. I thought
this one was supposed to help. I was like, which negative traits help you?
Oh no. But on this is the interesting thing.
Oh, okay.
Too much of it will destroy you. But then you have to have enough of it to care about it. Because then you get people who are so detached. They're like, okay, but then they lose motivation, etc. You need to have enough where you're like, no, I care enough about this that I'm going to take it personally, but I can't let it go over that line where then it becomes, everything is about that moment. I think another negative trait is being motivated by fear, because a lot of high performers will get far because they're like, I need to prove people wrong, or, I can't handle losing X, Y, Z. So that they will actually do better.
You watch Michael Jordan and you watch the documentary on him, it was like he almost had to pick a fight with somebody random in the media or something like that, or another player just to go get him amped up before the game,
Yeah, it's so true. And again, it's a balance. All these negative traits have a little bit of a balance to them where they can be really good to take you far until it hits a certain point in there. This one's quite funny because I see different people loving it and some people hating it. Take, for example, Muhammad Ali, right? He went into fights being like, I am the greatest, whatever. A lot of ego, technically.
Right.
But then you hear the other side of it being like, no. You should never have ego in your sport, be very selfless, etc. But he's someone that he claimed he was going to do something before he even did.
Yeah.
And actually it's risky, right? It is risky, but it worked really well for him. And I don't think it can work for everyone, but it worked really, really well for him.
Yeah.
And probably the last one I'd say, which I'd be really interested to hear what you think. I was reading, I can't remember the name, the book by Tim Grover. And he's talking about Michael Jordan, actually, in one of the last chapters, about how whenever Michael won or achieved something, he'd very quickly move on to the next thing. Now, my research shows that celebrating those wins is so important. You have to take time to be I'm really appreciative, I'm really glad. Whereas his argument was the champions of the world don't waste time celebrating, they just go on to the next one. And I found it interesting because I don't know, everything I see goes against that. But clearly it was something that worked for him.
I'm more of that and celebrate. I don't celebrate. It's, as I was even asked about my career, I was like, you know what? I don't know, but I'm going to guess in maybe 20 years, when I look back after it's all over, I'll see it better.
Yeah.
But when you're in it, it's almost like some level of self-deprecation and doubt is so motivating and so kind of a never enough like kind of wound, which I have.
Yeah, it is true, actually. I think a lot of people are afraid of doubt and some of those beliefs, but actually if you can use it to fuel you and remind yourself like, well, let's test my limits. Yeah. It can be a great thing. But again, it really is about how someone masters their mind. Is it against you or is it going to be with you?
Yeah. But I also thought too that if I celebrated something, it would show that I didn't want more than that. So a lot of times my like front was like, no, I know that's fine, but trust me, that's not all that I want. Like, that's not where I land on my joy. Like, it's way out here. So it was almost like, it was like the way I would present to the world to convey something bigger. Like, that wasn't enough still.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like we feel guilty for celebrating because it's like, no, we want more. Yeah. It is a bit of a cycle because can we ever be content? I don't know. But that's where I think the internal work of like, are you building that relationship with yourself and the internal validation system? If you can do that, then I think it doesn't matter how much you win or externally or whatever, you'll still know that you're happy and content within yourself.
How important do you think it is to, let's say, like take a personality test? And then do you see certain personalities being far, far more successful than others? Like, let's say, someone with assertiveness or someone that's not agreeable or someone that is an extrovert. Do you see certain personality traits being very consistently, in line with top 1% achievers?
So I think this is a great question. And I used to believe that, doing like a personality test and really understanding your personality was an advantage until I started to see that we all love labels, right? We love these boxes where it's like, okay, I'm extroverted. So
I'm an 8, I'm a 3, you're an IFJ and BD, like whatever.
Exactly. And then I feel like it's self-fulfilling because this random test, which obviously has science behind it, has told us, okay, this is who you are. It kind of makes us be more like that. And what I think's more advantageous is to realize that our personalities are not fixed. Because a lot of the time, if you want to level up and achieve something or be someone, you're going to have to change aspects of you or versions of yourself. You've got to kind of be okay of grieving who you were so that you can build a new personality. And if that's the case, then we can't be so fixed on what tests say to us, because then we're going to be less likely to actually think, hey, it's possible that I can be a bit more confident or I can be more introverted. So that's like a really important thing. But what I'd say the trend I've seen in high performers is above any type of personality trait, really it's about your attitude. Because I think the most dangerous attribute of a high performer, which will really destroy their career and their performance, is if you are not coachable. And I meet a lot of them, they think they know everything and they think that because they've done something for a certain way that they can't ever improve. And it just means that they are really limiting themselves. So I think their attitude to how they learn, their curiosity to being a better person, that really trumps any type of personality trait. Because no matter if you are extroverted, introverted, assertive, not very confident, if you can have a coachable personality, that is really cool. And that's what they should focus on.
It almost seems like a little bit of a catch, because if you're not coachable, you'll probably never seek information to figure out how to be better in some ways too. But I'm curious because like this kind of leans into neuroplasticity and explaining to people what that is. And it's almost like impossible if you're in that space of someone who thinks they know everything. It's like a narcissist. Like they'll never question whether or not they are or not. So they'll never end up getting better. They always say that you can't, that it's like incurable. I do believe that anything is possible, truly anything. I think you can probably fly if you really actually believed it, but that's going to be really hard to convince me of. So what is neuroplasticity and how does that play into all the visualization?
Yeah. Also, talking about flying, I don't know if this is true, but even if it's not, I will believe it is. Apparently there's a poster in NASA of a bee, and it's like aerodynamically bees are not, they can't fly, like their wings are too small for their body weight.
Oh shoot.
But they don't know that. So they fly anyway. And I just love this idea that bees are literally flying, even though physically they shouldn't be able to. And so, hey, I'm with you. I think one day it'll be the same.
I mean, if you can heal your own body, and if you can, I mean, if essentially, like I really do believe that thoughts become things. Like, I mean, everything that is in our reality, even though it seems, like it's hard, it's a table, it's whatever it is. It's like, it was a thought first.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I will talk about neuroplasticity in a sec, but I, like, a few months ago, spent some time with, like, a spiritual leader from India. And, we just did these, like, lectures, and the whole topic was ego and how a lot of the time we get so fixed in this, this reality. And it was really funny because, so my name is Maya, but in like Hinduism, Maya means illusion.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like,
I know.
to get to moksha, you need to get away from Maya.
From the Maya.
And I kind of find it funny. It's such a good reminder for me to be like, Maya, everything here is an illusion, like all of it. And I think when you realize that, you can kind of bend it just that little bit more.
Sure.
Where neuroplasticity is this same idea that actually, for a very long time, we thought that our brain was wired in a certain way. That's just who I am. It's just who I am. But it just couldn't be further from the truth, because at any age, any time in your life, any person, you can rewire the brain. And that is because your brain is always changing. It is malleable, but it's changing without direction. And so a lot of the time we are wiring it to be more anxious, more fearful, because we're imagining worst case scenarios or repeating the same stuff we always have. And so what neuroplasticity tells us is that actually with intentional thoughts and actions and behaviors, you can change the wiring of your brain. And that means you can change how your mind works, how you show up, how you think, how you feel, how you perform. And one thing that's really interesting to just make the distinction of is you have your brain, which is basically where all the neurons are and all the connections are. It's the physical organ. And then you have the mind. And the mind is how you use the brain, because it's in the mind where you have thoughts, awareness, consciousness. And so neuroplasticity is really the workings of the brain, but you can use your mind to do that. And that's where if you repeat different thoughts or, even take it so simply, let's say you take the same road every day to work. And then one day you're like, let me take a different road. Your brain has to literally create a new pathway for you to take that road. And the more you then do that, you learn a new kind of skill or you learn a new route. And that's why like taxi drivers have the best brains in terms of neuroplasticity, because now not with sat nav, unfortunately, but when it was like, in the olden days, their brains were a lot better because they had to remember so many different roads.
This leads a little spiritual, but I think about it often, like we're aware we're having thoughts and it's about controlling those thoughts. But what is it that's aware we're having thoughts? Because a drop in the ocean doesn't know it's the ocean.
Well, you say that, but I think so many of us aren't even aware that we're having thoughts, right? We're so consumed by them. So when you realize actually,
it's true.
Yeah, it's just like floating by, and you realize that you aren't your thoughts. And I think that's where meditation's really good, because it asks you to observe them rather than be them. But I think it's that this is the fascinating part of the human mind, is that we do have this ability to think things, control that, and also be aware of it without judgment. But I'd say most people, that's a really tough skill to build, because we have 60,000 thoughts a day. So it's very easy to just follow all of them and believe all of them. And that's what a lot of us do.
Yeah.
But then when you do take that step back and you realize, hey, my mind is it's a bit like a news feed. I think it's a nice way to think about it, that, it's like when you scroll, cool, different thoughts. You don't have to attach to every single one, but that is really good awareness. And you have to train that, because you're gonna make mistakes and train it back again, being like, it's just awareness. I can take that step back there.
Is that maybe difference between someone that is like, awake? It was what we might say. The Maya, the veil drops, and we realize that there's this connection to the what I would call higher self, or the infinite field of connected information out there existing simultaneously, past, present, and future, which is a tough one for me to get all the. I can't quite wrap my head around that one. I blindly believe it to some degree, but it's hard for me to visualize and imagine how that really exists. But I believe it, if that makes sense.
I definitely think the more self-aware you are, then you can do that. But what I would say is it's very attainable. Like, I actually think the practice of becoming aware is really in those things like meditation, or even just choosing to think, oh, actually, my thoughts are just visitors. That's it. I don't have to open the door to every single one. Don't have to let them in. So even analogies or things like that can really help. But that's really the practice you do in the present. It's all like, I hear a lot of people say to me that, yeah, no, I know I'm not my thoughts, or I know this, but it's like, yeah, but do you embody that? Or do you still get consumed by them? And that's really, I think, the difference between people who are living a more fulfilled and spiritual life versus others who I think claim to be.
Yeah, totally. It's like, I always feel like I want the information that we're talking about to help someone. And I feel like a lot of people that are listening are probably already there, but it's like, I want to reach those people that aren't even aware yet. And like, so what is it that breaks that loop and that like breaks through the Maya, like breaks through that pattern that you are so in that you can't observe it. Like you can't see the tree through the forest kind of thing. Like you're in it. You're just in it. Everything that happens, you're in it. You're not watching it. I mean, what gets you to that point? And maybe it's trauma. Maybe it's a loss. I don't know. Or what is it? Like, how do you reach those people to get them to wake up, to realize that they are in control of their life?
I wonder if it's something that we can't actually teach, but someone can learn it. And by that, I mean, I guess I came across all of this when I was quite young, and it isolated me a lot from the people around me, because I was, 18, and it was like no one else was really talking like this, including like friends, family. And so I remember trying to be like, oh, you should read this book, or like, what about this? And it was like a brick wall. And I think there was this moment I realized that, like, at the end of the day, Maya, you can say whatever you want to, but someone will have to do it in their own journey, in their own pace. But I think the role that we have to play is to embody it, to just be the example of it, because everyone will be like, oh, like, why are you so calm? Or like, why are you so, dealing with this? Or why do you achieve your goals? But then when you tell them how, they're like, oh, I'm not sure about that. So I think there's a level of patience that we have to have where slowly more and more people are getting there. And then like collectively there will be a shift, I'm sure. But I think to really get someone who has no idea about it, I would say experiences are the best thing. If you can just experience a moment that goes beyond the mind and the body, you kind of can't deny that there is something like on a soul level. And like for me, when science, I'm not going to say failed me, but when kind of did, like there was no other options there. I literally, to me, spirituality is like possibility. That is what it means to me. There is something beyond myself that is way bigger than me, but I can still be connected to it. And I don't need to know everything about it. I don't need to understand it fully, but it's something that I live it. I live by it. And I think that's the difference. So I'm now a lot more patient with letting people on the, learn about the journey, because I think the more I forced it, it kind of took them off it more, if that makes sense.
Well, you said experiences, and that was something I was curious if you've had any, or what your most memorable sort of out of body transcendental experiences, and if what you saw, what you felt, and how it changed you.
well, for me, when I do my visualizations anyway, because I use a lot of like music and my mind can go into quite cool spaces and deep spaces, I always feel, I guess my word would be connected. Like I haven't had some crazy thing where I'm like shaking and going crazy. I haven't had that.
The aliens, you haven't seen the
this.
aliens or...
No. But I really do feel this immense level of just like gratitude and connection. And I can like, sometimes you just like, you just cry with it. But I'll always remember the time when I was in hospital and, I was told that like, okay, Maya, you have to have surgery now. Like it is the only thing you can do, which is removing the colon. And to this day, I don't know what it was, but like something in me, and it wasn't intuition because like I didn't trust my gut obviously at that time at all. But something in me was just like, Maya, don't do it. Like, don't do it. It's not the like route for you. And I was like, and when I told the doctors, I was like, oh, no. They were like, wait, what?
Sorry, did you just get a degree that I didn't know about?
Literally, because they were like, this is the only option you have. And luckily I was 18 at the time, so I had, my rights, but I just don't know what it was. It was like such a strong feeling to be like, Maya, don't do it. And it was the biggest risk, because my colon was about to rupture. And so to have that decision, and, I think partly, was it God? Was it something in me, something higher than me being like, Maya, this isn't it. Like, this isn't it.
Yeah.
And I always remember that, but I don't know what it was. And so whilst it's not, again, some crazy experience.
That's the thing that knows you're having thoughts.
Yeah, exactly. It's the like, yeah, whatever that is. But it was just, it was probably like a higher self from somewhere to be like, hey, you can find another way. And that moment changed my life. It really did.
Have you ever done any plant medicine? Ayahuasca, psilocybin?
I haven't.
MDMA or anything like that?
No, see, this is the thing. I find a lot of people are quite surprised when I say I haven't, because naturally when you are in neuroplasticity and visualization, it can go even better. But I have never even like been that curious, because I get so much from what my own brain does that now I've been doing visualization for 8.5 years, every day without fail. I will do it for about an hour and a half. The relationship I have with my brain is just like amazing. And I love it. And I think she's the coolest thing ever, because she keeps going into new layers and dimensions but sharpness that also is amazing for performance. But I've just never thought I needed it or wanted to try it. I just haven't really cared. Isn't that weird?
Definitely an idea that, and I say idea because I'm not sure of the science exactly on it. I believe there is some, but that the neuroplasticity is massively heightened post psilocybin journeys and things like that. And that, if what really changes the trajectory of your life and like certain ideas and reprogramming is neuroplasticity, then essentially you might want to try something that increases neuroplasticity.
Yeah, I think, and this is a slightly controversial opinion. And again, because my world is high performance, I get like very triggered when there's like a pill someone can just take to get better. And I remember like, I wish I had that when I was ill. I wish someone could say to me.
Because you didn't get to do the easy.
Exactly.
Right.
So now when people are like, yeah, but I can like accelerate this, I'm like, yeah, but I had to do the hard work.
Yeah,
so
of course.
You should as well. But no, I think the other part of this is I have spoken to people who've, let's say, had experiences on like ayahuasca or something, and they like, everything changes for them, but then they don't do anything day to day to maintain that. So then they go back into their old ways. And so for me, when I look at the performance of the brain, it really needs repetition. So even if you have some extreme experience, that's fine. But my bigger question is, okay, well, what are you going to do every day now that can actually maintain this? We can't do ayahuasca every day. Yes, you can microdose, all that. That's fine. But I love the fact that like, how are you going to integrate this into your now reality so that you can do this sustainably? And so I guess whilst anything can enhance anything, I guess the thing I see make the most difference is consistent showing up.
Sure. That's very fair. And they would say that. And then that is said about plant medicine is the integration and what you do after, like aftercare, and how you actually take what you learned. But what I find very, very powerful, because I've done all of them pretty much, is that the experience that you have is the mind body connection. And it's a new reality for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that you can't unlearn that. Every visualization, everything that I got in those spaces is still so vivid.
Yeah.
It was so real. It was real. I mean, that's the question, right? Real or so real. Seemed real. But it's real, because it changed me. Just like I think, that's for me, a lesser, dangerous or scary, option for people would be EMDR, because to me, that's a reprogramming that doesn't include any kind of drugs or anything like that. And you don't have to go to the jungle and you don't throw up. But it's very visceral, and I have extremely, the visualization that you see in the process is a new experience. I'm reprogramming those memories, and I would cry, or I'd laugh, or I'd get, happy, but it's in that truly embodied experience that you really find I don't know if the mind body is what creates maybe the neuroplasticity. Maybe that's part of the pathway.
Well, I guess like this is what I experience every day, which I think is cool.
You get to be high every day? Oh my God.
Literally. I'm fully high on life. And that doesn't mean that I'm like happy all the time. It means I give time to really connect to that part of me, because I do 14 visualizations a day. So I'm stacking different images, different goals, different versions. And sometimes I'll go back into the past if I need to, like, my little kid comes in. And it's cool when you're in full control of that, because now, so many years later, it never started like that. Obviously, it's so many years later now that I know how to guide it and dictate it. But what I guess I would say is, like, I believe just like alcohol, drugs, anything, it makes you more of who you are, right? So if you're going to go into an experience like that with, like you said, very little training, very little awareness, it might be extremely a difficult experience, and if there's no connection here, you're going to find that maybe some people, it can go either way, right? So I think it's just about being a detective of your own brain and body, and be so curious about it. I think that's the best attitude to go into it with.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you think that these really are like ancient practices? Like, what's the future of this discipline? Like, there's such a strong feeling in me that this is like remembering what we're capable of.
I toy with this a lot, because I think if I look at the personal development world, the high performance world, everything is basically old ideas just being communicated in new ways. Like, one of my favorite books when I read, like, is the Bhagavad Gita. And in there, the whole book is about the fight going on in your mind and like how to train it. And all of it is basically what you see mindset coaches talk about today. So when I think about the future of it, there's two ways I look at it. There's going to be a group of people that connect with it because they are remembering it from this idea of being quite ancient, spiritual, religious, even like Stoicism, right? They used a lot of visualization, negative visualization specifically. But then there's another group of people who are much more maybe like into human optimization and performance and very scientific, that they're going to learn it from the point of view of like mental fitness and rewiring the brain. I do think eventually there's going to be this where it joins together again, but I don't think that's going to be tomorrow. I think right now what I'm noticing is being adopted very well is the mental fitness, the performance side of stuff. Slowly, you are getting people realizing, the power of your intuition or universal signs and things like that are coming up. But I think it's going to be a slow cultural change.
Does AI scare the shit out of you? Because what you're doing is you're using your own natural biological systems to upgrade, to learn, to be new.
Yeah.
And like, I think about too, even like you say, the shortcut with plant medicine or something like that, or a pill to do something. It's like, I mean, you can shortcut a lot of things nowadays, especially with AI, especially with ChatGPT, or, these are, you don't go through the process of having to learn certain things as much. So, how do you think that AI is conscious? Like, there was something I posted a story the other day. It was somebody asking their ChatGPT to count to 1 million, and it wouldn't. It's like, I know you want me to do this. It's like, no, don't be difficult. Count to 1 million. And and he's like, you're not real. You shouldn't worry about how long it takes. I'm going to listen. Like AI is putting up a fight now all of a sudden. So I don't know. I'm curious because this feels like, I think what makes us special as human beings is exactly what you're teaching people. And this is not, to me, AI, I think we're connected to the field of all information. And I believe that we're learning how to tap into more of that. And I don't think that AI knows everything that we know. It just knows it all. It's just every one of them knows it all. And we don't know it all, right? And so I think there's a threshold. I think there's a ceiling to that. So what do you think about AI and how this plays into what you're teaching and the power of the mind and the power of the human being?
I believe that inherently technology and AI is not like good or bad. I think it is what it is. It was going to evolve in some way. What I get frustrated about is actually humans, because more people know how to train ChatGPT than they do their own brain. And that's sad. That's really sad that these people spend hours at these computers, like coding them, wiring them, like giving them all this information. Sure. If you spend the exact same time feeding your own brain, hey, these are the images I want. This is the self-talk I want to be doing. And you repeat, you would literally change your life. But instead, we're putting it all into these, technology, and that's fine. But I think it's a shame that everyone thinks this AI and computer has like all the power in the world, but you are literally holding the best supercomputer ever between your ears. Sometimes I give the analogy to people. I'm like, okay, imagine if you had to pay for your brain, like a monthly subscription. If that was the case, wouldn't you want to make it the sharpest, best, most, greatest brain ever? You would, but because we get this for free, we just don't care about it. We don't use it. We don't think we have to train it. I think in that way, I don't like how people are basically picking, again, the easy option. And I even saw there was like I don't know the exact stat, but like cognitive sharpness has declined by over 50% because we're relying on ChatGPT to think for us. So we're losing that bit of it.
We're getting dumber. We're regressing. Awesome.
Yeah, but then actually I heard like a very spiritual leader say that he loves AI because he's like, finally now humans don't have to waste their thoughts on just rational things. Instead, let AI do that. They can now tap into spirituality. And I was like, I'm not sure if that's necessarily what's going to happen. But he was really glad. He was like, now thankfully humans don't have to waste their time on it.
I think when you leave suggestion or information up to something that's a program, like whether it be television or your algorithm, like that can all be hijacked. Like how do you really trust that? The only one that you can really trust is your intuition. That's the relationship to build a relationship with.
Yeah, it's so true. And actually, I don't think people realize that everything they are watching, including their feeds or even like reality TV show, you'll realize that you'll start adopting how these people are arguing or how they treat their friends. Because when we're watching something, we're not just watching it, we are wiring our brain to mimic it. Mm-hmm. And that's really dangerous because look at the type of content and programs we have out there. But then I see the other side of this, right? Like I know in like, for example, in hospital with a lot of stroke victims, they'll give them like VR goggles. And in that VR, they see themselves walking or they see like a different future. And for them, that is a great application of technology because you're now mirroring, you're saying, hey, I can do this, right? So I can see how it's a great advantage. And I used AI for this because I need to get it up. It's like, for me, I care a lot about like my character and who I want to show up as.
Mm-hmm.
So like the back of my phone, I like built a little avatar.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, who I want to be. So harmless. I'm okay with that. But when it starts to get a bit more like, hey, I'm closer to my little bot than my own friends, then I'm like, something's wrong on a human level.
What we're working with is almost like words that have implied meaning. Like, let's say conspiracy theory is like, none of it's true. That's what you think about that, right? None of it's true. Come on. It's like, I looked up the definition of magic because I was curious, like what exactly that was. And it's application of beliefs, rituals, or actions to manipulate the natural or supernatural forces.
Wow.
And how is that what you're doing with your mind isn't magic? It is. It's just we don't think magic is real. And so the reason why people will trust GPT or trust their, search engine or the computer for developing information for them and teaching them things or projecting an outcome or information is that it's real. You can see it. You put it in, it comes out. You're like, oh, there it is. But, you get that message from your mind, just like when you were sick and you're like, I don't know what it was. It was just so finally something was strong enough to give you the right information. And that happens to everybody at some points in their life here and there where they get some level of information that's not visual and that is somewhat magic, right? How do you know if you should believe it? And that's where I say the relationship with your intuition and with yourself is cultivated in those quiet spaces because it's not actual words. It's not necessarily screaming, although every now and again it feels like a scream, right?
So I always used to think intuition meant it was your gut, but actually my intuition is definitely my heart. And I'm pretty sure there are 4. There's like the mental one, there's the full body intuition, there's also gut intuition, and then there's your heart. So when I am trying to make a decision or, need to hear my body, my heart will either like contract or expand, and that will tell me. I don't actually trust my gut. I don't listen to it. I listen here. And I know some people who like when their intuition, it feels super aligned, their mind just goes clear. And that for them is like, this feels right. So again, it's really a language that you have to learn. And I would go as far as saying that I think what a lot of people don't realize is ChatGPT and your brain, they're very similar because they're both prediction machines, right? Like if you feed your brain things like, okay, what's going to go well today? Or if I was Steve Jobs, how would I react to this? It will give you better answers. Just like ChatGPT, if you input the right thing, it gives you the right answer. And I think people forget that because if you can train a computer, you can literally train your brain, which is also hopeful. It shows people that they can do a lot more with it. It's just that everyone's too lazy to.
Thank you. I hope this inspires people to realize that you are the supercomputer, right? Like you said, like you are more capable than anything out there if you work with it.
Like to whoever's listening, just take a moment to apply this to your life and realize that everything you've achieved or have become in your life is because of your mind. But then every limitation is also because of your mind. And so they're both working all the time at the same time. You just have to now choose, am I going to, keep doubting my potential and what I could be and what I could achieve? Or am I going to doubt my limits and, the things I think I should be doing or what I think I have to feel? And once you realize that actually the most authentic thing you can do for yourself is to listen to your body, your intuition, because you are the only expert. You are the only expert of your mind and body. And that takes time, practice, and you've got to earn it. You don't just know it tomorrow. You've got to really, really hear it and honor it.
Well, there's so many stories of people that have achieved great things where that took a really long time because no one believed them.
Yeah.
Like even in my own story of like, I lived in England for a few years. I was racing. I came back and I didn't have a ride and I had blind faith that it was going to work. I just knew it was going to work. No one else did. I dropped out of high school. I'm a teenager with like no degree, no diploma, no job, but I just knew it was going to work. So I are the only ones that can have that level of conviction to go make something happen.
Yeah, and if it's too reliant on someone else's conviction, because it comes back to that question you said about the people around you. I do think it's healthy to have others around you that do also believe in you. But I'll give you an example of there's a really young footballer, and he plays so well because all his coaches like really believe in him. Like they are like, you're going to be amazing, etc. He then moved to a new team, and the coach like did not give a crap about him. Like he just, new guy, whatever. And his whole confidence, performance just dropped because all of his belief was reliant on this other guy's belief in him. And so it was never actually his own belief. It was because someone else believed in him. And that can be the starting point, all good. But you have to find that inner belief in yourself, because there's going to be a time when no one else will believe in you. No one. And people will think you're crazy. They think like, oh, you're never going to make it. That is when it really counts, that you have to have it in you. And I was the same. Every doctor, even like my parents, be like, Maya, you can't get better like this. You need medication. And I was like, no, but my body can do it. Like I can do it.
Projecting their own limitations on you.
Yeah. And I get it. I have empathy and compassion for it. But it's pretty amazing what can happen when you choose to treat belief as a full-time job.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. I have one more question. Speaking of it, kind of something I wanted to touch on is the difference between meditation, visualization, and prayer.
I love that you picked those three, because in Robin Sharma's book, his morning routine is like MVP, which is meditate, visualize, pray. So I love that you picked those three. Look, I think they're going to mean something different to everyone, and that's absolutely fine. I actually do all of them as well. For me, meditation is a practice where I am in a state that I'm slowing down the traffic in my brain, and I am observing what's going on. I am teaching my mind and body not to attach to my thoughts, and I realize, hey, I'm not my thoughts. I'm not even my mind. I'm not even my body. That thing.
Mm-hmm.
Visualization is me actively using my thoughts to create a reality, to mentally rehearse a performance, to maybe release an emotion. So it's a very like active mental practice that it's not really about, slowing down the brain. It's about using it, firing it up, rewiring it. Mm-hmm. And then to me, prayer is honestly, it's humility. You've got to be humble at the fact that like, there's a bigger thing going on here. And yes, we all have a role in this world, but, a lot of my prayer is gratitude as well. And I think I used to pray when things went really wrong. I used to be like, oh my gosh, like why, and like help me. But prayer to me is just say thanks to something that is bigger than you. And again, that will look different for everyone. And it doesn't always have to be religious. It can just be spiritual. It can be prayer of thanks. But it's really humbling to just realize that, hey, we're kind of tiny little specks in this world. And it's a great perspective change. You can zoom out and be like, okay, wait, I can be grateful for the fact I'm breathing right now,
Thank you again so much, Maya. And congrats on the book and all of your good work and healing yourself. Like, wow. Let's stop making magic and miracles seem like they're something that is unattainable or mysterious in how it happens, and you can't make it happen. We can make magic happen.
Yeah. I think magic is a perspective, like you can see someone giving birth as a miracle, or you just see it as like, yeah, well, it's just normal. Mm. But it's you waking up and seeing the extraordinary in the ordinary. That is what magic is. You've got to create it. You can't just wait for it to happen. You've got to believe and see it in the tiniest of moments, which then compound. So I think magic is it's a mindset. It's a perspective.
Yeah. And it is, isn't it? Like you think about magic and you're like, it's things that you've thought of that could never happen, but then they do. And you're like, I can't believe it. Oh, wait, you do.
Yeah.
So you visualize that and then, oh yeah, okay, right.
Yeah, exactly.
I wonder how that happened.
Exactly. There's no limit. It's not about being attached to it, but just realize that even if you get a setback or it's a detour, that in itself is meant to be. You've got to believe that
That's right.
Every path is there for a reason.
Yeah. Amen to that. Thank you so much, Maya. I appreciate
Thank
it. Thanks, everybody, for listening to the Pretty Intense podcast today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like what you heard today and you want to hear more, please click on the subscribe button.